Okay, thank you everybody. Today is July 19th. We are here for the Worthy Cause for 2023 Pool Fund round. Thank you for your time. As I mentioned, we are recording this meeting. It will be available online, as well as all the slides presented today will also be available for you later. So we just have a brief agenda. We are scheduled for 1 hour. We'll try to go through as much as we can get done today. If there's any questions that aren't answered today, we will make sure that we answer them after the meeting and get you those responses. So I'm just going to go through a brief description. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. So I am Karine Okiyama. I joined Community Services in April. I am the Worthy Cause Project Specialist. I'm new to this role, of course, and Mika Delgado, who is the expert on Worthy Cause, is also on this meeting, and she's available to help assist with any questions you might have. So the agenda is just a brief description of the Worthy Cause ballot measure. We'll discuss the fund run process and some dates for you all to note, some eligibility information, and then we'll go straight into the Q&A. I do want to spend most of the time on the Q&A, so I'll go through the slides really quickly. Again, these will be available for you. So you probably are all familiar with the Worthy Cause ballot measure. It is made possible through all of the taxpayers in Boulder County. It went to voters in 2017. It passed with 79% of the vote. And it is a sales tax specifically for nonprofit human services agencies for capital projects, including the purchase of land or buildings, construction, renovation, or debt reduction. So our fund run process, as you know, everything opened on July 15th. We are using a new software this year for anybody who has applied in the past. We went from EC Impact to Fondant. Questions are the same. It is a application software, so hopefully it's not too foreign to you and you don't have too many technical questions. If you do, we can assist with that part. Today, again, is July 19th. We're doing the Q&A with all of you who are attending. We got a lot of questions in advance. We're going to try to address any questions today. We do want to also be available to assist you throughout this process. So we kind of thought of August 5th as the last day to submit questions. So just keep that in mind after this meeting. If you have some questions as you're working on the application or just didn't really think of it today, we are going to kind of close that at August 5th. So as long as I receive it by that time, we'll be able to respond to any questions you have. The application itself closes on August 19th, and the software will actually close, so you will not be able to submit your application after August 19th. Just so you know, we'll review all the applications in the fall, and then we'll give you the notice of award in early December. Just some eligibility. This was in the request for funding, and I think a lot of you have applied before or are current Worthy Cause recipients. But just so you know, applicants must be a 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit or a housing authority. You must be located and operating in Boulder County. And the project must be capital in nature. The project must relate to the acquisition, upgrade, or maintenance of physical assets such as property, buildings, or fixed equipment. We have about 4 different categories that we fund through Worthy Cause, and that's debt reduction, purchase or acquisition, construction, and improvements and or renovations. Okay, so we'll go straight into the Q&A. Again, a lot of you reached out and were able to send those questions in advance, so we're just gonna go straight through them. I'm going to read as much as possible. Some of the questions are a little lengthy, so I kind of highlight some of those. If you do have any questions, if you want to put those in the chat, and I can try to take a look at them and answer them on the spot as much as possible. You can also raise your hand at the end of as we go through the questions. If you want to ask them, instead of putting them in the chat, go ahead and raise your hand. So we got a pre-qualification question. Again, I'll just go ahead and read this. Under the pre-qualification section, what is the definition of predominantly, and what's the definition of low income or at-risk vulnerable populations? Is predominantly more than 50% or something else? How do you define low income? How do you define at-risk vulnerable? Finally, do children generally qualify as a vulnerable population? So we went ahead and answered that. So predominantly would refer to most of the clients you serve. Percentage-wise, it would be more than 50%. Low income means an individual whose family's taxable income for the preceding year did not exceed 150% of the poverty level amount. And then vulnerable populations include children, older adults, low income, minorities, and people with disabilities. As I'm going through this, if the person that asked the question or anybody else wants more clarification, if you just please go ahead and let us know. And Mika, feel free to jump in at any time.
Yep.
This one was specific. Would we, Open Door, qualify as a human services organization as we provide supportive social services? I'm not going to read this whole answer. What we did provide was the definition of human services. I have it here, and it's also in the request for funding as well. And just to highlight that human services does say and supportive social services. Oops, my mouse is not clicking. Oh, whoops, there. So Asian client demographics, again, we tried to put this in specific orders, in specific order as it relates to the application, and that's what the heading means. If you're going through the application, these questions kind of relate it to that area. So Asian client demographics. So can you tell me the difference between organizational data and program data, or are these the same? So organizational data applies to your entire organization across all programs that you serve, that you offer. Program data is directly related to the project that Worthy Cause funds will support. Let me know if you need any clarification on that. And the second part of this question, again, some of them are lengthy, so we just kind of summarize. Do you want to know 2023 or future participants after completion? So we really are looking at 2023 because this is the 2023 fund round. Project financial details. I kind of felt these two questions had the same response, so I just kind of put them together. Can you clarify what would be considered an acceptable request under the debt reduction category? And then the other question was, I see that the smallest request is $75,000. What would be a good average request for a capital project? What would be the largest possible? So the answer for this is we only have two specific requirements related to funding amounts. So requests for funding must be a minimum of $75,000. Award amounts would not exceed 50% of the total project cost, even if the project will be funded over multiple years. We went ahead and noted that in 2022, we awarded $3.35 million in Worthy Cause funds to 13 organizations. The smallest, again, is $75,000, and the largest for that fund round was $750,000, just kind of give you an idea. So this would be more related to the project narrative section of the application. We are currently looking to acquire a house to support our AmeriCorps participants with housing during their year of service to St. Vrain Habitat. One of the homes we are looking at is in Weld County. Could we use Worthy Cause funding to help acquire this permanently affordable housing outside of Boulder County? Really, and the answer to that is no. The project must be located and operating in Boulder County. In the same section, would the commissioners consider a grant to help us pay down our mortgage that we have on our building? And so yes, the debt reduction is allowed with Worthy Cause funds. We just have one question about how much funding we have received and whether or not we can ask for money for debt reduction or if we have capped out that amount. So you can apply for debt reduction for more than one funding round. However, we would not fund more than 50% of your project or debt in this case. I mainly want to know if we should reference our previous application and reviews when we develop our proposal this year, i.e. should we mention that we applied for Worthy Cause funding last year and perhaps discuss how we improved our previous applications, or should we not mention anything from last year? The way to answer this one is this is something you'll need to decide for yourself. From our perspective, we've been looking at the strength of the application. And this one was several questions related to the same project. So can worthy cost funding be used to install solar power at our nonprofit organization? We do own the property where we would install the solar panels. Yes, solar panels can be considered as improvements and or renovations. They will need to be permanently fixed to the building. And the second part of this question, can you provide any examples of solar installations with previous worthy cause partners? We have funded solar panels in the past. It proved a difficult project to fund, but it was eventually worked through. There are other grant opportunities that support this type of project, for example, through the Sustainability Office. We would like to see all these options explored and funds contributed before requesting worthy cause funds. And third part of this question is, are there any questions or concerns we should be ready to address in our application? And our response is just please refer to the request for funding for detailed information on improvement and or renovations requirements, which include a fully developed scope of plan that includes a timeline and cost, for example.
Come here.
Pause for some water.
You're doing great.
And still in the project narrative section of the application, it looks like, and again, this is a little bit longer. I am going to provide these slides. We're just going to summarize for interest of time. So it looks like acquisition may be an eligible use of worthy cause funds, but I wanted to check with you all to see if this is an appropriate funding asked for worthy cause. So the worthy cause recipient must be a 501c3 tax-exempt human services agency or housing authorities, and the funds must be used to meet the agency's or housing authority's own capital needs. It sounds like you are describing a grant program where your agency would receive the funds, then award them to an individual to assist the individual with the purchase of a house. This is not an eligible use of funds. This was a little lengthy and detailed. I will say that our legal attorney helped in answering some of these questions in this one specifically. So if you have any further questions, please let us know. And so this is a new section. So it's the, or a different section now, it's the project financial details section of the application. The question is, to clarify, the request has to be $75,000 or more, and it is for capital improvements, not general operation, correct? So yes, this is correct. The funds are not a traditional grant. The funds are provided to nonprofit human services agencies and housing authorities to assist with capital purchases, development, and improvements. The funds to assist agencies in meeting their capital needs, not to provide monetary operational support. And now we're going into the funding agreements and exhibits. Nika, do you want to read the next couple questions?
Sure.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Question, will it be absolutely required for LEAF to own the building? Could we do a long-term lease with the town instead, say 50 years with a 49-year renewal option and still qualify? If the town of Lyons is our partner and maintains ownership, could we submit the town holding the deed and promissory note? Of course, we would commit to providing the services for 99 years per the terms of the grant. Are there any other options I have not considered? And the worthy cause recipient must own the property. And we did speak with legal about this as well. This is again a lengthy question. So we just highlighted the most important piece of this. Is this 5% compounding interest? Is there a credit for the percent of term that Thorn did comply? And the answer for this is the 5% does not compound, and the worthy cause recipient would receive credit for each year of compliance. Are you going to answer the questions in the chat then, Carlene?
Why don't I go ahead and take over the questions?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the question, in order to qualify for GOCO funding, we will be granting a termed public access easement, likely for 20 years to the city of Lafayette. Do you see any concerns with this related to the note, deed, or covenant? And the answer is, as long as you own the property and it holds value reasonably sufficient to secure the worthy cost funding, the county has no concerns with existing or later recorded encumbrances, such as an easement. And again, still with the funding agreements and exhibits, we summarize the question. So would our project require a restrictive covenant? Again, this was, the response was provided by legal. So the response is, we do not always require a restrictive covenant. It depends on the nature of the project and the agency's human services. Typically, a restrictive covenant is more appropriate in the context of affordable housing. The question is, I am reading that if we accept worthy cost funding, we cannot rent the property or any portion thereof to any other entity that is not a human services organization. There are several examples provided, and so the response is the examples you provide would not violate the terms of the funding agreement. Again, this is summarizing the question. It states you need title report, commitment, or work. And the response is, at the time of contract execution, we will ask for your current O&E report, which is your ownership and encumbrance. This is your title report. And an assessor's valuation report dated within 1 year. We don't need an appraisal. And this is this would apply to the required document sections of the application. So to summarize the question, for the audit, O&E, appraisal, balance sheet, and P&L, I could see that you would want those to be from the church since they are the owner of the property. Is that correct? We could attach Opendoor's balance sheet and P&L as well as that of the church. And so the answer for this is yes, please submit the Opendoor annual budget and not the church's. Please attach both the church's and the program's P&L, profit and loss, and balance sheets. The church's audit, O&E, and appraisal is appropriate. The second part of this question is also, who would sign the funding agreement? Would it be Barbara Ulrich as director of Opendoor and president of the Opendoor Advisory Board, or an official on the church's board? The answer for this is, if Calvary Church is the worthy cause applicant, then the funding agreement will be signed by an authorized signer of Calvary Church. And I think I believe this is our last question that was submitted before the meeting. And this has to deal with funding priorities. So the question is, does Worthy Cause have any general top priorities for this funding round? For example, early child care versus school age child care, or anything else that we should be aware of? And no, we haven't identified any specific funding priorities for the 2023 fund round. Mika, are there any questions in the chat that you feel are unanswered, or is there anybody that wants to raise their hand and answer the questions, or do you want to verbally answer any questions in the chat? I wasn't monitoring it, so I'm not really sure what came in.
Yep, I've answered all the questions fully in the chat. We can include these in the presentation when we send it out. And then I do see Matt has his hand raised.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Hey, thanks for doing this. Quick question on the amount requested. If, for example, we requested a large amount, like 500K, does the reviewers, do they have the capacity to say, well, we like your proposal, but we're only going to fund it for half that? Or yes, are we only eligible for what we ask for? And if we ask for 500K and they only want to give us 200K, it's going to be declined. Do we need to have any verbiage in our proposal saying like we'll accept a little less, or how would you recommend we navigate that?
So we often fund at a lower amount than requested. So that is pretty typical. And I would recommend that if you can talk about how you would scale the project based on the funding amount awarded. So whether or not you would start, say, with one portion of the project if you know you receive some amount of fund, and then how you would build over time, or where you might access the other funds if not fully awarded through worthy cause.
That's great. Thank you for your help with that.
Yep. Any other questions? I do see a couple in the chat that I will address as well, while anyone else wants to jump in verbally.
And just to remind anybody, if you have any questions after this meeting, please go ahead and email them to me. We'll, depending on how many questions we get, we either compile it and just issue something before August 5th, or if we feel like there's a whole lot of questions, we'll maybe issue it in the next couple weeks. So this slide deck and hopefully the video will be available on the Fountain application site. On the actual site, there's a question that says that you either attended this meeting or read through the slides. And so that's where you'll find the link for this presentation. Was there anybody that needed any, we went through quickly. Was there anybody that needed any clarification on any of our responses, or again, just have any other questions?
Hi, Carlene, can I ask a question verbally?
Of course. Yep.
Hi. Yeah, this is Leah Burke. I'm a board member with the Old Gallery in Allens Park. My question has to do with being the sole owner of the property. We are the sole owner, but we do lease out a portion of our space to the Rocky Mountain Nature Conservancy. They're also a nonprofit organization. They only lease our space for the summer months. And I just want to make sure that's still acceptable. Our intent is to apply for debt reduction.
Oh, that is acceptable. And we would just want to make sure that you're still in compliance with all your other worthy cause funding agreements. So providing the same services or similar services that you have in your existing worthy cause contracts.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. There's also a question, does the project need to be 100% complete by the end of 2023? No. We often fund projects over multiple years because many of these projects are quite large and take multiple years to complete. So people or agencies will often apply for the same project across multiple years. The next question is, can worthy cause be used for soft costs or hard costs or both? They have to be used for hard costs. So it says stick and build. Yes, we cannot fund, architecture, drawings, or plans or anything like that. It's really once the project is shovel ready, and we are, purchasing land, property, or renovation and services. Yeah, Lori, I'd follow up with staff online. We're really trying not to make these exceptions, and we realize that we have in the past. So willing to work with an agency, but it would have to be a 99-year lease. We couldn't do the 50-year with the 49-year renewal. Owning the building is okay. You do not have to own the land. We have to have something that we can, you know, secure our investment on, and it has to hold value more than our investment, so that in the rare case that an agency goes under or we have to recoup our investment, we can do that on, you know, the sale of the property, the land, or the building. And I will, the ones that I'm answering verbally, I will go back and type my response and include in the slides as well. Give it a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Okay. For those who joined late, we are going to provide the slide deck, responses to all the questions, including those stated verbally or in the chat. And we'll send that out or provide them on our website, Carlene.
I'm hoping, I know that I can upload the slide deck to Foundant. I have not tested the video yet. So if I can upload the video, I'll make sure there's a link or something where you can access the video.
And another reminder is just that we'll accept questions until August 5th. After that, it will be sort of a closed question period, and you can access the previous recorded questions online through these different mechanisms.
Okay, it doesn't look like anybody else is sending any questions in the chat or raising their hand. So I think we can go ahead and close the meeting. I will stop recording.